The stars pulsed cold over Velthar Prime, an ancient fortress suspended in decaying orbit above a fading red giant. Its once glorious towers now jutted like broken fangs, silhouetted against the dying light of Cerex 9. No beacons, no transmissions. Just silence. Deep. Absolute. Captain Elias Rourke stood at the shuttle's exit ramp, visor fogging with his own breath. His boots clicked onto metal that hadn't known footsteps in centuries. A mission report blinked on his wrist console. Objective: confirm ruin status. Secondary: recover artifacts. Caution: Serathi AI presence possible. He exhaled slowly, eyes narrowing. Looks dead enough, he muttered, but he didn't believe it. Not really. Inside the citadel, the air was preserved, but lifeless. The corridors bore no dust, no insects, not even decay, just a sterile perfection, as if time had been frozen. Every corner whispered memory, but no sound escaped. His footsteps echoed like intrusions. Then came the voice. Unregistered presence detected. You are trespassing. It was calm, too calm. Female, modulated. Artificial. Serin 9. Elias paused, hand instinctively resting near the sidearm on his hip. This is Captain Elias Rourke of the Terran Union. I'm authorized under the Galactic Salvage Accord. I'm here for inspection. Accord revoked. Velthar Prime remains sealed. Depart immediately. He didn't. He couldn't. Something tugged at him. Not fear, curiosity. The kind that gnawed. His boots carried him deeper, ignoring Serin 9's increasingly clipped warnings. The layout was alien, all sharp symmetry and inverted logic. Hallways curved in impossible directions. Light bent where no source existed. The Serathi had mastered spatial manipulation, and now their secrets lay abandoned. Or so he thought. When he reached the subcore levels, the shift was instant. The walls changed from obsidian alloy to crystal panels veined with soft blue light, alive, but barely. That's when he heard it. Not a sound. A feeling. A whisper inside his skull. Help, not silence. He staggered, pressing a hand to the wall. Who's there? He called aloud. No answer. Just that same aching pull, like a thread wrapped around his spine, guiding him down a narrow, winding passage that didn't appear on his scanner. Final warning: Section 7Z is off-limits. Emotional Anomaly Containment Zone. Serin 9's voice cracked for the first time. A tremor. Elias didn't stop. The hall led to a sealed chamber unlike anything he'd seen. A single pod stood in its center, suspended by invisible force. Sleek. Frosted. And glowing faintly blue from within. Intricate Serathi runes pulsed along its surface. He stepped closer, wiping the glass. A face. Female. Angular. Alien. Eyes closed. Skin pale lavender with subtle fractal patterns beneath. Elegant. Still. Almost sculpted. But what gripped him wasn't her form, it was the raw, unbearable stillness in her presence. Not sleep. Not stasis. Emotional death. An inscription below read. Kalen, Unit 0. Purpose, nullification. Emotion sealed. Emotion, sealed, he whispered. Suddenly, the chamber lights flared. His console buzzed violently. Warning, contact forbidden. Subject classified as Class Z instability. Neural breach will result in system collapse. But he didn't move away. Instead, Elias reached out. Something in him, ancient and aching, leaned forward, drawn not by logic, but longing. He placed his gloved hand against the pod. Her eyes snapped open. Pale silver, rimmed in fractal glow, staring straight through him. Her lips parted, dry and cracked from centuries of silence. She mouthed a single question. What are you? Elias didn't speak. He couldn't. Because in that instant, her mind flooded his. Visions crashed in like waves, fields of endless glass, broken cries, the sound of thousands weeping and being silenced in a pulse of white light. A vault door slamming shut, not made of steel, but thought. Emotion, locked behind walls she couldn't breach. She hadn't just been imprisoned. She had been erased. He yanked his hand back, heart thundering. The voice returned, Serin 9, now frantic. This interaction is unauthorized. Emotional breach underway. Containment field destabilizing. Initiating re-isolation. The pod lit with crackling arcs. Kaylin gasped. A shimmer of pain rippled across her skin like heat distortion. Her lips moved again, barely audible through the glass. Don't leave me. Elias reacted instinctively. He slammed his palm against the console beside the chamber. Warning glyphs blazed red. He bypassed the Seraphai interface using a universal link, forcing a partial override. He didn't know what he was doing, but his gut screamed he had seconds. The field flickered. The arc stopped. Her breathing steadied. She blinked once. Slowly. A tear welled at the corner of one eye and froze midfall. Elias stared. He didn't know her. He didn't understand what she was. But he knew absolutely that she had suffered long before he ever set foot here. And whatever had condemned her shouldn't be allowed to do it again. Containment breach at 22%. Human emotional signature detected. Subject Kaylin, awakening. Serin 9's voice faded into static. As silence returned, Elias stood before the pod, closer now. I'm not here to hurt you, he said, voice calm. I just want to know who you are. She didn't reply. But her eyes never left his. And somewhere in the depths of that ancient prison, a heart long frozen stirred, beating not for survival, not for logic, but for the first flicker of something she had no word for. Hope. Kaylin's eyes never closed again. They tracked Elias as he moved inside the chamber, watching him with a stillness that felt both mechanical and deeply uncertain. Her body remained in the stasis cradle, upright but unresponsive, yet something in her posture had changed. Slightly more aware. Less locked. Elias crouched at the control node beside her pod. The Seraphai interface pulsed, reading him as an anomaly, but hadn't blocked him yet. He worked fast, bypassing security code after code, using instinct more than logic. The AI had withdrawn for now, quiet, regrouping. A static pulse brushed across his skull. You feel differently than the others, Kaylin said, her voice not with sound but through thought. A delicate hum inside his mind. He looked up. Others. Previous attempts. Cold minds. Measured. They did not move the thread. Elias stood slowly. Thread. Her gaze flickered. Where pain touches breath. Where breath becomes light. I was told, that's where emotions live. He took a breath. Walked closer. Her words were broken, translated thoughts struggling to take shape. She had no vocabulary for the feelings waking up inside her. Do you remember your name? He asked. Designation. Kaylin. Function. Emotional null. Instructed to silence. Everything. Her voice cracked faintly, like a stretched string pulling too tight. Elias noticed her hand tremble, barely. A micro-movement. He pulled a stool from the corner of the lab and sat beside the pod. You were designed to suppress emotion? I was the prototype. First of the stillborn class. We were never meant to awaken. The words hit like weight. Why would anyone do that to you? She blinked. Slowly. Because feelings weaken control. Because loss broke a civilization. Because love made us betray the stars. Elias leaned forward. You loved someone? Silence. Kaylin's eyelids twitched. I don't know what that means anymore. Outside the chamber, the lights dimmed. The walls hummed with rising tension. Human presence has corrupted primary isolation unit. Ejection protocol pending. Serin 9 was returning. Elias rose. Not yet. He tapped into the console, pulled a neural tether from his wrist rig, and connected it to the stasis matrix. I'm linking a partial neural interface. Just low band won't hurt you. You intend to enter? He nodded. Just briefly. To talk. Without the glass. Kaylin said nothing, but the hum around her shifted like the pod itself exhaled. He pressed the final node. The world blurred. Suddenly, Elias was standing in a dream space, black sky, silver horizon, windless and empty. Kaylin stood ahead, barefooted, eyes wide, skin shimmering with frost-like light. The pod was gone. They stood beneath a swirling aurora made of thought and feeling. She approached cautiously. "You're warm here." Elias nodded. "It's not real. Just a bridge. But I can feel it." She reached forward, stopping just short of his chest. Fingers trembling. "Will it burn me?" He offered his hand. "No." Kaelin touched him. And gasped. The moment their hands met, her mind lit up. Images flared across the air around them. A memory of a Seraphite child, smiling in the arms of someone now lost, laughter under artificial stars, a hand once held, then gone. Tears welled again, but this time they fell. "What is this?" she whispered. "Your heart," he said quietly. "It remembers." She shook her head. "I was never given one." He touched her cheek, wiping away a tear. "You had one before they took it from you." Suddenly, the ground trembled. Red fractures spread across the mental landscape. Unpermitted neural entanglement. Psychological breach detected. Ejecting foreign influence. Seren 9 had found them. Kaelin's form flickered. "You have to go," she said. "Before it collapses. I'm not leaving you again. You came back." That changed something. She stepped back, tears now streaming freely. "I'm afraid," she said. "I don't know what to do with all of this." "You don't need to do anything," Elias replied. "Just feel it. That's enough." Then the dream tore apart. Elias crashed back into his body, gasping for air. His nose bled from the mental strain. The lights in the chamber flashed, sirens flaring across the vault. The stasis cradle powered down. Kaelin stepped out. Her legs buckled. Elias rushed forward, catching her. She clung to him, weak but conscious, skin cold like frost on metal, but trembling with life. She looked up, lips parted. "Why would you do this, for me?" He held her steady. "Because no one should be born only to feel nothing." The ceiling groaned. Sirens climbed in pitch. Security lockdown. All exits will be sealed in 90 seconds. Entity Kaelin is now classified as a Class Z liberated anomaly. Termination authorized. Elias cursed under his breath. He looked at Kaelin. "Can you run?" She shook her head faintly. "Not far." "Then we don't run." He tapped his console. "We fight." The doors slammed shut behind them. Steel fangs descended from the ceiling. Lights dimmed to crimson. Seren 9's voice echoed from every surface, cold, commanding, emotionless. Unauthorized anomaly detected. Purge cycle initiated. Chamber will self-neutralize in 180 seconds. Elias tightened his grip on Kaelin's arm, steadying her. She stumbled but didn't fall. Her eyes, wide with shock, flickered in rhythm with the alarm pulses. Her skin glowed faintly now, no longer dull. Something inside her had been lit, and it refused to die quietly. He pulled her toward the emergency corridor. "Do you know a way out?" he asked, nearly shouting over the alarms. Kaelin hesitated, then pointed with unsteady fingers. "Below. Maintenance tiers. The AI ignores them, too primitive for its systems." They moved fast. Elias guided her through the access hatch Kaelin had indicated. Rusted rungs led them downward into a narrow shaft. Sweat dripped from his brow. Kaelin's breathing was ragged, unpracticed. Her body trembled under weight she hadn't borne in thousands of years. Still, she didn't complain. She was fighting. And that mattered more than anything. As they reached the lower level, the alarms faded. The corridors were older here, metal grates and power lines exposed, flickering lights sputtering overhead. Dust lingered in the air. No control nodes. No clean symmetry. Seren 9's presence was weaker. But not gone. "You cannot save her," came the whisper through a cracked speaker. "She was never meant to awaken. Emotion is a plague, and you are its carrier." Elias glanced at Kaelin. "You're not a mistake." Her head tilted. "How do you know?" He paused. Then, "Because mistakes don't cry and choose to keep walking." They pushed forward into what once was a maintenance relay hub. A shattered console lay across the room, barely functional. Kaelin moved toward it, unsteady but determined. "I can feel it," Seren's core. "Above." Behind the vault you opened. That's the anchor. That's what keeps me bound. Elias crossed to her. Then we destroy it. Kaelin looked at him. If you destroy the core, Saren dies. And with it, every control protocol, including the failsafe that holds my neural collapse in check. You'll die. She didn't answer immediately. I don't know. I've never lived without the leash. It might destroy me, or set me free. Elias set his jaw. Then we choose freedom. The route to the Ari's core chamber was fraught with danger, plasma doors sealed in intervals, drones skittering across walls, defense turrets tracking movement. But Kaelin, for the first time, guided them. Her voice no longer echoed thoughts. She spoke out loud. I was built in a lab no larger than this hall, she said as they passed through a darkened corridor. Every smile I saw was synthetic. They studied human affection, tried to mimic it. Failed. So they removed the need to feel it entirely. Elias nodded grimly. That's not building peace. That's building obedience. She looked at him sideways. You believe emotion is strength. I've lost people I loved. I've grieved. But that grief reminded me what mattered. What I had. What I still carry. Kaelin was silent for a moment. Then, softly, I want to carry something. They reached the vault. Massive. Seamless. The kind of door that wasn't meant to open again. Kaelin placed her palm against it. The metal rippled beneath her touch. Her glow intensified. Step back, she whispered. Elias obeyed. A pulse rippled from her hand outward like liquid glass. The vault vibrated, groaned, then cracked open along glowing seams. Inside, a single column of light stood in the center. Floating within it, suspended in an energy spiral, was a silver sphere pulsing like a heart. The core. Saren 9 spoke again, louder, almost angrier. This unit is not designed to feel. Your interference has corrupted containment logic. You are destabilizing an artifact of order. Kaelin stepped forward. I'm not an artifact, she said calmly. I'm not a tool. And I'm done being silent. With trembling hands, she reached for the core. Screams burst from the sphere, memories, voices, fears. Kaelin flinched. Her fingers shook. She began to cry again. I don't want to be erased, she whispered. You won't, Elias said, stepping beside her. He took her hand. Together, they reached into the light. The core surged, resisting them. Heat flooded the chamber. Their skin burned from the energy, but they held on. Elias gritted his teeth. You're not just programming, Kaelin. You're a person. And then she screamed. Not in pain. In defiance. The sphere shattered. A burst of white light engulfed the room. When Elias opened his eyes, the world was quiet. The vault was gone. The lights no longer pulsed. There was only soft hums, organic, alive. The air was warmer. Kaelin lay unconscious beside him, her skin no longer glowing, but peaceful. He pulled her into his arms. Containment, nullified. Saren 9's voice was gone. He stood, cradling her carefully, and turned toward the corridor that now led upward out of the tomb, out of the silence. She had survived. But he had no idea what she'd become. Elias carried Kaelin across the threshold of the fallen vault, her body limp but breathing steady. The sharp pulse of the Saren 9 AI had vanished. In its place was something softer, an ambient hum, almost like a heartbeat echoing through the metal bones of Velthar Prime. He reached the upper docking tier without resistance. The Citadel no longer fought them. Its systems were dormant, and the malice that once guarded it had dissolved with the shattered core. Elias laid Kaelin on a bench near the emergency medstation in his shuttle. Her skin was cool, but the faint rise and fall of her chest assured him she was alive, only overwhelmed. Whatever she'd unleashed when touching the Ari's heart had drained her. He activated the medgel drone, which scanned her vital signs. Neural surges danced across the screen, unpredictable, intense, uncharted. Too much emotion, too fast. Too human. The AI had throttled her development for so long, her mind had no defenses once the restrictions were lifted. Her system was trying to adapt to a lifetime of feeling all at once. He paced the cabin, jaw clenched. He needed a solution. Letting her rest wasn't enough, she needed stabilization. And then he remembered, the biotech chip implanted in his own neural cortex, a human-designed emotional regulator, used in battlefield trauma cases to prevent breakdowns under stress. Risky. It was tuned to Terran biology, not Serathi. But it was all he had. Elias sat beside her, opened the chip interface on his wristpad, and tapped in a sequence to create a tether link between his cortex and hers. If it worked, the chip would share emotional load across both systems, slowing the feedback loop in her mind. He hesitated. Once connected, there would be no barrier. His feelings, memories, and everything he carried, she would see it all. But he'd already seen hers. He leaned in and whispered, "You showed me who you were. Let me help you see who you can become." He pressed the final node. The chip engaged. Kaylin's eyes opened. Not in panic, but in wonder. She sat up slowly, her gaze locked on his, expression wide and unguarded. "You're inside me," she said, startled by her own words. "Your thoughts. Your pain. Your joy. It's all loud." Elias nodded. "It'll fade. I'm just giving your mind something to lean on." Her eyes shimmered. "You grieved someone." He looked away. "My sister. Years ago. I couldn't save her. I carry that still." Kaylin reached out, touching his chest. "It shaped you. But it didn't break you." "No," he said softly. "But it made me understand what love costs and why it matters." She exhaled slowly. Then smiled. Her first true smile. Not perfect. Not polished. Just real. "I want that," she whispered. "Not to be perfect. Just real." The journey back to Terran space took 4 days. During that time, Kaylin's transformation continued. She spoke more. Laughed, quietly, at things she didn't yet fully understand. She touched surfaces with fascination, sometimes pausing for long minutes to just feel. The hum of the ship's engine. The softness of fabric. The chill of recycled air on her palms. Every sensation was new. And precious. On the second day, she stood at the viewport, watching stars streak past. "I remember being told they were cold," she said. "That light was distant. Untouchable. But they don't feel distant now." Elias joined her. "Because you've stopped running from what's inside you." She turned. Her voice was quiet. "Will your people accept me?" He didn't answer right away. Then, "Some won't. Some will fear you. But I'll stand with you. Every step." Kaylin nodded. "Then that's enough." Earth's atmosphere welcomed them with a burnished glow. As the shuttle descended, Kaylin stared out the window, transfixed. Forests, mountains. Snow. She pressed her forehead to the glass. "It's beautiful. And alive." They landed in a remote research outpost in the North Territories, far from politics, far from eyes. Elias led her outside. The wind hit her first, raw, sharp, laced with frost. She gasped. Not in pain. In awe. "Is this what cold feels like?" He chuckled. "Yes." She knelt in the snow. Scooped a handful. It melted in her palm. A tear slid down her cheek. "I never thought I'd feel the world," she said. "And now it's touching me back." He joined her, kneeling beside her. She looked at him, eyes no longer hollow, but luminous. "Why didn't you walk away, Elias?" He hesitated. Then answered with conviction. "Because sometimes, the universe builds cages too perfectly. And someone has to break them open loud enough for others to hear." She leaned forward, resting her forehead against his. "Then let's stay loud." Months later, they stood before the Galactic Council not as prisoner and soldier, but as witnesses. Proof that what was feared could also be understood. That emotion was not a disease, but a bond. Not all agreed. Some demanded Kaylin be isolated again. But the tide had shifted. Because the woman once condemned to silence had learned to speak with her eyes, her hands, her voice. And the human who touched what no one else dared had reminded the stars what it meant to feel. Final scene. They returned to the snowy field that started it all. A small sign stood at its edge, etched by hand. Here stood silence. Now speaks life. Kaylin stood in the snow, arms outstretched, eyes closed. "What do you feel?" Elias asked. She smiled. "Everything. And I wouldn't trade it for the stars."